And I'm going to put in a shadow color at the base underneath the yellow feathers. So I'm going to use a little bit of the Hansa Yellow Medium, a little bit of white, and I'm going to use the smallest amount of the sap green. And I'm trying to create a very dull olive green that is going to end up being my shadow color underneath the yellow feathers. I'm just working under the camera here, but I'm going to push it over in a second and you'll be able to see. I'm just going to apply a little bit of extender. So I've got a nice wet base to work on. And into that yellow I put just the tiniest amount of burnt umber, and that is going to be my dull shadow color that is going to give me a little bit of dimension and depth to the yellow. Now the front edge of the feathers, remember that those leaves are going to change, so we can always go back in with a liner brush after and create the detail on the profile of the bird's chest. Now I'm putting down just a little bit of extender along that border line between the black and the yellow. And you'll notice what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put wet paint on both sides, on the dark and on the light side. So I'm going to use just a little bit of the that shadow color, and I'm going to straddle the actual line. Notice how the paint goes on the yellow and it also goes on the black. This is a very important step here. Because this is going to form the foundation or the shadows below the yellow. You notice I just took the little dome blender and blurred out the edges, keeping them nice and soft. Going back into the Hansa Yellow Medium, and I want to make sure my brush is clean, so I had washed my brush out so I get a brighter color. A little hard to see because my hand is in the way, but I come right up over the work with my hand. See my brush, I always reform the chisel so that I've got that really good chisel on the brush, because the chisel is what is actually going to be building these feathers. You don't want to be using a rake brush or anything like that. It's just too much detail. So as I pick up the paint, I'm actually slicing the paint at a slight angle as it comes on where it meets the black. See the angle? I just lightly pull it. The chisel of the brush is what is forming the strokes, and I'm using the same direction. I'm pulling the brush in the same direction. I'm just moving around a little bit. Notice these are kicking out a little bit now because this is probably a young bird and the feathers are a little bit still on the fluffy side. These are new feathers. They're not as tightly placed as the adult feathers are. The main thing here is not to lose the darker shadow color that's underneath the yellow. If you cover that up, you've defeated the whole purpose. You want to be able to see that peeking through here and there. We're going to shoot to use 3 values. The shadow color will be the dark. We will use this color as our medium, and then when we lighten this yellow up to a very, very light buttery yellow, that will become our highlight color. Now I turn my work so that I'm more comfortable, sometimes pulling away from you when you're doing liner work like this, fur or feathers. You get a much nicer edge. When you pull your brush, you want to lift off, almost like a plane taking off. And this will bring the stroke to a nice fine point and will give you the illusion of softness. If you lift off straight up in the air, it makes the stroke end in a blunt cut as opposed to a taper, and this of course looks very stiff and hard. Now I'm leaving some much stronger feathers in the front just to draw attention to the detail on the face. Notice the value of the yellow has changed quite significantly. You can see it really showing up now against that darker undercolor.